We've said all day, this concern about Biden isn't coming out of nowhere. As we all know, Democrats have been voicing concern about Biden's age and cognitive health for years now. And now that we've learned that a Parkinson's expert has been visiting the White House 8 times in 8 months, and that just adds to the questions and concerns that have already been out there since the beginning of this race. Marianne Williamson, who has run against Biden twice and is still in the race for the Democratic nomination, joins me now in studio to talk about the way forward. Whew, I feel like I just need to take a big, deep breath and think about everything that has happened just in the last 48 hours before I even delve into my questions. After hearing that conversation with our whole panel of experts, Marianne, what are your initial thoughts?
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with Rachel Bade. I think the Democratic leadership completely underestimates the level of disgust that Americans are feeling due to their cowardice, due to their hypocrisy. You know, the issue is not just crisis, it's crisis management. And they are failing at crisis management. No major company could succeed if they just dithered like this in the face of a crisis. This is like President Kennedy during the Cuban Missile Crisis saying, I don't know, I need more time. No. The American people want to feel that they have a government that knows how to handle an emergency. The Democratic Party needs to display right now a very serious way to handle an emergency. Rachel Bade was absolutely correct. This idea, there's nothing we can do. If he doesn't want to give up the delegates, he doesn't have to. It's called an intervention. It's called Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Schumer and whomever else walking into a room with the president, with the first lady, with Hunter, whomever, and saying, this has got to stop. You are risking our victory in November. We keep saying how dangerous Donald Trump is. At a certain point, who do you blame, the thief? Or don't you also blame the people who are opening the windows and opening the doors? So this is an abject failure, not only for the president. And you know, I started all this feeling a lot of compassion for him. This had to have been a very humiliating experience. And he was due a lot of respect, compassion, gratitude. I said that at the time. What is happening now is not deserving of respect. No one person is indispensable. And when Donald Trump a few years ago said, I'm the only one who can fix it, many of us were appalled, and we should be equally appalled at the president's arrogant belief that he's the only one who could beat Donald Trump, when in fact polls show the exact opposite. So the Democratic leadership, and this is on full display, everything that your experts were saying, they say one thing in public and another thing in private, but because of their own cynical calculations, their own ambitions for their own careers, they won't stand on principle and stand on what they know, and they expect the American people to turn the keys to the White House over to them. Not just the White House. We're now risking the House and the Senate, not only because the president could drag everything down, but because these men and women could drag everything down, acting in a way that is so contrary to the politics that they have purported to stand on for the last few years of their own careers.
This is exactly what they ripped Republicans for, and former President Donald Trump, and now look at where we are. Simple question, how the heck did we even get into this position?
We know how we got into the position. How we got into this position started many years ago. I think right now, though, when you're in a crisis, you can't really indulge too much analysis of how you got here. You have to talk about what is happening right now. I want to look for a moment at Karine Jean-Pierre. How is this any different from Sean Spicer, who told us when President Trump was elected, this was the biggest crowd we've ever seen on the mall for a presidential election. And you, and I'm sure many showed pictures of the crowd at Obama's inauguration, went, no, our eyes can see. And Sean just kept repeating the lie. This is terrible. And I know Karine Jean-Pierre, I know from my own experience, the way she mocked me on the presidential press podium right after I announced my candidacy. The press secretary position has become PR operative, posing as a press secretary. So we're being asked to see, it really doesn't even matter that I mean, it does matter that a Parkinson's doctor has been at the White House, but it matters what we saw the night of the debate. It matters what we saw the day of that interview with George Stephanopoulos. We're not only being asked, can the president handle the next 4 months of a campaign? It is reasonable for the American voter to ask, can he handle the next 4 years of the presidency? We heard him be strong on Morning Joe the other day, but the President of the United States can't be episodically strong. The President of the United States cannot be episodically on top of his game. The American people have the right to think that our president is someone at the top of his or her game 24 hours a day, and nothing less than that will be voted in by the American electorate in November.
It's interesting you mentioned Morning Joe, MSNBC, and I actually made a note here about the president's interview and when he called in, and he dared those who want him to drop out to challenge him at the convention. Would you challenge him?
I already have. I've been challenging him for a year and a half. And I understand why these people are afraid. This crowd is tough. This crowd is vicious. This crowd smears, they lie, they suppress candidacies, and the elected politicians in the Democratic Party know, they're hearing the warning, they're hearing the threat, and they know that it's true. And those of them who are thinking, this is the kind of calculation they're doing, well, maybe I'll wait, I'll run in 28, I'll run in 32, I'll run in 36. Meanwhile, look at what is happening to our country now. And even putting aside those of us who really do not wish to see Project 2025 come to pass. We do not wish to see a president who calls climate change a hoax. We do not wish to see a president who Mark Esper, his former defense secretary, has gone on record on 60 Minutes saying that President Trump said about protesters, can't you just shoot them, like shoot them in the legs or something? Yeah. There are many people who do not wish to see the president come back, who appointed Supreme Court justices expressly for the purpose of overturning Roe v. Wade. But don't underestimate how desperate people are out there. We have 39% of the American people who report that they regularly skip meals because they can't make the rent otherwise. We have millions of people who are selling their blood plasma. We have young people having to live in their parents' basements because housing is such a crisis for everyone. We have millions of people who are having to work 2 and 3 jobs. The American people, the Democratic Party, need to get about the job of offering hope. Even in the earlier press conference today with a couple of Democratic congressmen, all we're doing for the working people of the United States, I assure you, too many working people of the United States don't see all that. Now, I agree, Donald Trump is offering false hope. But you know what? For people who have no health care, who have no place to live, who live with chronic economic anxiety, who are saddled by debt, medical and otherwise, they'll go with false hope rather than no hope. And that's what the Democratic Party needs to get about the business of doing. Enough about Joe Biden. This is wrong. This should be about the people of the United States. This should be about what the Democratic Party is going to do over the next 4 years to improve the material conditions of the American people.
But why isn't it about that? Because like you said, you said just a moment ago that the Democratic Party suppressed other candidates like you, Dean Phillips, other folks that wanted to jump in.
Yeah.
Why do you believe that Democrats did that? And why did they pick Joe Biden? Why is it Joe Biden that they want to make it here?
Well, for the answer to that, we have to go back to George Washington's farewell address. He warned us about political parties. And by the way, I'm not saying that there are fewer shenanigans that go on among the Republicans, please. I am a Democrat. But there's a difference at this point between the Democratic soul and the Democratic machine. So what George Washington said is that he feared that political parties would form factions of men more loyal to their party than to their country. And that's exactly what's happening. And then John Adams, our second president, said he feared that political parties would become the biggest threat to our democracy. Not only did we not allow a genuine democratic process to take place over the last year and a half in the primaries, we have time over the next 4 months to do so. And those who are saying, oh, we don't have time, look at what they just did in France. Look at what they just did in Britain. There is plenty of time. Those who are saying there's no time, what they're really saying is we might lose control. If that were to happen, if we really opened this up now and had a little mini primary and an open convention, it might not be our choice. who gets the nomination. And the American people need to challenge them to open this thing up so that the Democratic Party can truly be democratic once again.
Let's continue this conversation for the next few months, shall we?
Let's do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much, Marianne, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you very much.